Hello. Turn this music down. It's so loud. So loud music. No need to be so loud. Bruh. Bruh, oh, I need to turn you up. You're quiet.
How's that?
It's still quiet.
No idea, I'm eating, so my mic's a bit further away from my face than not.
That's fine. I can turn you up. So, audio stuff. Is this the right one? Yes, this is. We are not watching the games today. Do not worry. We are not. I'm not gonna make you watch like 18 games. Okay, I'm gonna have to turn my music off because it is far too loud. So, no, shut that up. Thank you for the host, Tim. Turn that down. Turn this up. You can't hear Drew. Yeah, he's really quiet.
That's because I'm not trying enough them.
Can you hear him now, Bucky?
I'm trying to eat. I'm not eating all day. No can today?
Barely. No cam because I'm gonna edit this video and it is gonna go on my YouTube channel. And I realised when I tried to do it with the last one, I pulled some really stupid faces. So I was just like, nah, I'm just gonna do this one without webcam. Also, I think more people would rather watch when I don't have my webcam on than people watch when I have my webcam on, because this face is not the prettiest, especially as I've got a real bad breakout at the moment. Can you hear him now?
How's this?
Is that better, Bucky?
I'll just pull my mic directly in front of my face. It's fine. Just don't blame me when you get eating noises.
There you go. Cool. So, before we even start anything, before we even get to the knockouts, obviously we need to discuss what has happened with groups. I think it ended very similar to the way that we predicted anyway. I managed to get every single game right out of Group C. And then I got 2 games wrong in Group D, and in Group A, 3 games wrong in Group B, and 2 games wrong in Group D. But other than that, I managed to get everything right. So
That's not good. Let's not talk about mine. It all went to shit.
yeah, because I told you. Because you were like, Flight Quests are gonna do great, and I'm like, sure.
I mean, they ended it 3-3.
They did end it 3-3, and we predicted them. Well, I predicted them 2-4 though, so I predicted that they would win at least a game. So we're gonna start with Group A. Obviously, there was a tiebreaker in Group A. It's the only one we had a tiebreaker in, which was G2 and Suning, but it was only for placement. So what do we think about how Group A played out? Let us look at the actual games and who won what.
Right.
Thursday. So, Team Liquid versus G2.
It was obviously going to be G2.
Which it was. Machi versus Suning.
Suning, again, you can't... G2 and Suning were the favourites to come out of this group anyway.
Exactly, like they were always the favourites. G2 versus Machi. It's G2. Again. Then we get to the upsets. Suning versus Liquid.
I'm pleasantly surprised that Liquid were able to take a game from Suning.
And then and then TL versus Machi as well, which was Team Liquid.
Expected. Oh, I expected that.
Oh, hi, Pumpkin.
Excuse me. I think had Liquid taken that game from G2, they would have had they probably would have made knockouts. It would have been a 3-way tie.
Yeah.
No, it wouldn't. It would have been a 2-way tie.
2-way tie between Suning and Liquid.
No, because Suning beat G2.
Oh, no, yeah, it would have been a 2-way tie between G2 and Liquid.
And I think they could have taken it. Because they beat them twice already. if they
Yeah.
would have won that first game.
And then obviously we had 2 games of Suning versus G2 because we had the match and then we had the tiebreaker, which Suning managed to take both, which was a shock in my book. G2 seemed to drop the ball.
With the first game, it was the draft. Everybody says that. I agree. The draft was shit in the first game. The second game, you had a Senna sitting on what I want to say nearly 200 absolution stacks.
Probably.
You play around her. You start a fight when she's there. You don't get yourself caught, and that's what happened. They lost the game ultimately. So
Yeah, I don't know if it was tiredness or cockiness or what, but that last game, they seemed to just drop the ball and they seemed to mess up
absolutely.
quite dramatically.
Mm-hmm.
But again, obviously we get G2 Suning coming out of this as predicted. Obviously I originally predicted G2 would come out first.
So did I.
Um, only by 1 game. But obviously Suning managed to be the better ones in the end. Group B. PSG versus Down 1.
Was always going to go to down one.
Rogue versus JD.
I had hope.
You
Rogue
had
beat
to.
JDG.
I think you put too much hope in Rogue.
Yeah, and they didn't win a fucking game, so.
Yeah, I think you put too much hope in Rogue. I knew going into Worlds, Rogue were definitely the underdog, just because of they were a mostly rookie team.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they'd ever played more than 2 games a day, and they had to go against JD down one after another. So I knew it was very unlikely that they were going to make it out. I did think they were going to beat PSG. But unfortunately, that didn't happen. JD versus PSG, the upset of the day.
Mm-hmm.
PSG taking
Absolutely.
a game off the number 2.
Absolutely.
Any thoughts, opinions? When you've not got your mouth full of food?
It put the LCL on the map. That's what it did.
Yeah.
It shows that the LCL is a region to be scared of. When you can take a game from the LPL, who were considered the best region, going into Worlds.
PSG are LCL, are they? I thought PSG was.
Not big. Hang on.
Other one. One sec.
PCS, sorry. LCL's.
Yeah, I
URL.
thought I was about to say, isn't the other one where UOL is
PCS,
from?
it says at the top.
Yeah, I was like, I swear that one is UOL, but yeah.
That was freaking retard.
And then obviously PSG beating Rogue.
Again, I'd say that was another upset.
And then
I don't think anybody was expecting it.
JD taking down 1.
Again, an upset. Down 1 were the clear favourites in this group.
JD taking down 1 out. I predicted down 1 to do a 6-0.
Yeah, I was expecting it because every year, down 1 go to groups, down 1 do extremely well in groups, and then drop the ball. They bottle it in knockouts.
But do we think that they're going to do that this year?
I think there's a chance. Who is it? Well, we'll talk about that in a bit.
And we'll talk about the polls for quarters in a bit because you already know my opinion on that. And my boys, my group C, my boys, yeah, woo. We almost had a tiebreaker in this group, but managed to do it. I am really proud that I managed to predict every single game correct in this one, and I managed to get the positionings correct. Obviously, if you don't know Stream, I am one of the biggest Fnatic fangirls in the world, and I have been for the last 5 years. So, Fnatic versus TSM.
It was a done deal.
I think we all knew that Fnatic were going to take him out. LGD versus Gen G.
To me, that was a done deal.
To me, it was closer than it should have been.
Absolutely. Gen G looked absolutely fucking horrific on the day.
It was closer than it should have been, but they definitely warmed up by the end of the day, because then obviously TSM versus Gen G.
Also, TSM had the lead. They almost dropped the ball.
Yep. TSM almost won all 3 of their games, basically. And then they bowled it. And they got caught out.
Usually because of Speaker and Broken Blade.
But unfortunately. Fnatic versus LGD. Obviously, our boys took it.
I was expecting Fnatic to win that purely for Pickham's sake. But Fnatic were performing very well. Their game against TSM filled me with hope. I'm surprised we've not seen Magic Felix yet though.
I think Nemesis is very anti sitting out. Unless he gets overly tired or needs a break, I don't think Nemi is going to sit out. Nemi is a little bit too stubborn for me. And I think he definitely needs to take a step back on some games, but I don't think he's gonna. Unless something happens, I don't think we're gonna see Magi. We may see Magi in in the quarters, just so that we can try something else. But I don't know if we're definitely
Well, he
gonna
has
see
to
him.
play at least one game to get the world skin if they win.
Yes, but then they'd be giving it to Magi instead of Nemi because you only get 5 anyway, don't you? Oh.
Your sub gets one as well. That's where your sub has to play a game because you can only pick champions.
Well, they'll
you
probably
have
do it
played.
if it's a 2-0 at quarters. They'll probably put him in for the third game, just to be like, there you go, there's your game.
It'll be a Carly. I know for a fact it'll be a Carly.
And then Genji versus Fnatic, which unfortunately our boys did drop, but
I was expecting Genji
I
to win
expected that as well. Genji are a stronger team cohesively. Fnatic are still finding their feet, which is really bad to say we're at Worlds, and we're in the quarterfinals of Worlds, and Fnatic still don't have their way of
Identity.
winning. They don't have their set team style in place. But C was the one that we both predicted 100%. We both got 100% on it. Even though we predicted A wrong, I actually also got 100% on my pick'ems somehow. We're not going to talk about B and D in my pick'ems because I just went to poop. And then Group D, the group that we all expected to happen, but then didn't happen the way we did.
One upset of the day.
FlyQuest versus DRX. Obviously, was going to be DRX.
Obviously going to win.
UOL versus Top was obviously going to be Top. UOL versus DRX.
DRX.
Obviously DRX. Then we get to the big oopsies. Top versus FlyQuest.
I have to say I am very proud of the proud of the FlyQuest boys here. If I'm not mistaken, that was the
Have a look.
second Azir game of the day for
Wild Turtle.
No.
Oh, PoE.
Yeah, but it was also Ignar's Blitz game.
Yes.
And we saw Urgot and Gnar. Two champions you almost never.
Yeah, I will 100%. When I saw Gnar, I was like, excuse me? What is going on here? So yeah, that was the first upset. Then we had UOL versus FlyQuest, which wasn't exactly an upset. I think we all knew that FlyQuest were going to win.
Everyone expected FlyQuest to win that. But the biggest surprise was PoE breaking out the cap special.
Oh, I thought DRX won the last game. Never mind. I did get that one right then.
No.
I only got.
The biggest upset in the UOL FlyQuest game was UOL blinding Kassadin and PoE coming in with the Vayne mid.
I remember the casters being like, "Oh my god, Vayne!"
I went absolutely nuts because PoE is one of those players that if he pops off hard.
PoE is still a really good mid laner.
PoE
I just
to
think
come back to a U.
Yeah, I think PoE, Bjergsen, and Broxer all need to come back.
I can't speak English. Bjergsen has passed his sell-by date, if you ask me.
I think he could come back and bring up one of the lower teams. Like, if he went on, like, XL, I think he potentially could bring one of the lower teams up as well.
I don't think he can compete with the mid laners in the EU.
Let's not talk about the LEC summer, because we had the weirdest split known to man this summer.
Schalke.
Fucking Schalke Miracle Run. Like, what the hell was that? It was almost the full Miracle Run.
Spring Sweethearts.
Madden
Rogue.
The Spring
Madden
Rogue
going nuts. And a team that everybody expected to come into summer swinging in Misfits completely bottling it every week.
Yeah, but we all know what happened with the Schalke Miracle Run. Yeah. There was one player who made that happen.
God, Gilius.
God, Gilius, God
But
only sin.
that still doesn't change the fact that Misfits completely bottled it from week one in the summer when they had such a strong start with a rookie roster in spring.
Yeah, they did. I 100% agree with you on that one. And that takes us basically to the end of groups. So the way that groups ended, if we go into standing groups, Suning G2 TL Matchy, we predicted that anyway. Dan 1 JD PSG Rogue.
I predicted Rogue and PSG the other way around.
I predicted Rogue and PSG the other way around because I expected Rogue to take at least one more game. Genji Fnatic LGD TSM, exactly how we predicted
Exactly
it.
how I predicted
Very
it.
disappointed in LGD's performance. I very much expected more, especially from such a
Started a roster with the likes of Kramer, GA,
Peanuts, my
and
boy.
Peanut.
Peanuts, my boy. I was the biggest Rocks Tigers fan coming into 2016, and I absolutely loved Peanut. But that's also because I didn't want to support SKT because I was sick of them winning. And Peanut kind of became my little baby, and then obviously Peanut went to SKT, so I was very confused.
But of course,
So I was
GA
a little
is
bit
another one of these
disappointed.
decorated players. GA has been one of the mid laners that has been contention for best in the world for years.
I'm a little bit disappointed in LGD. I don't know if it was the synergy having to come through play-ins.
I think when it just came to it on the day, they were outclassed.
But they were outclassed by Fnatic, and Fnatic have not been the strongest. As a huge fan of them, I can say they have not been the strongest this year. There's been a lot of issues with, as Reckless has even said in interviews, with trust, with cohesion,
If
with
I'm
being
not
able to do stuff.
mistaken, that was Hilly's. Hilly had a set game, and I think that was it. The
I
LGD
think there's been
Fnatic
a
game.
couple things. LGD Fnatic, let's have a look. It was
Excuse me.
LGD Fnatic. It was Whippo was so Fnatic was Volibear, Hecarim. Oh no, Hilly was on Leona.
Oh, it was that game. The
Z-
one where they absolutely fucking
Zia
ground pounded bot
was
lane.
on Zoe.
It was the one where they ground pounded bot lane and Whippo just kind of bullied Lange.
Yep.
Comes in and gets a triple
Self-made
kill.
did the
Yeah.
I'm gonna ride him. Just was running over everyone's faces.
Yeah, I think this game they were just completely outdrafted.
I think a lot
And
of things it was down to draft, but then we've seen as well, especially coming from play-ins, draft doesn't make 100% of the win. Doesn't matter if you've
absolutely not.
got the A stars in every single lane, it does not mean you're guaranteed that win.
But think of it this way: you've got you had Nemesis on the Oriana, which he's looked strong on all year.
Yeah, it's one of his top champions.
Whippo on a winning matchup as the Volibear into the Renekton.
There we go. And also, if we look at bans in that game as well, obviously Fnatic took TF off the board. He's been one of the strongest mid laners. GA's shown how he can perform on it, but so has Nemesis. Ornn, obviously one of the main top laners at the moment that everyone wants to pick. And obviously, guessing Brippo just didn't want to play him this game and they had more priority on someone else. And the Kindred, we have seen Peanut pick up the Kindred, but also Peanut's champion pool is so throttled. Peanut does not have the amount of champions that are current in the meta, which is really sad to see from such a well-known person. LGD banning the Lucian. Nemesis has had so many pop-off games on that Lucian, going all the way back to Summer Split. Evelynn, self-made on Evelynn, you just don't do unless you want to lose the game. We just say that. And then Syndra, obviously that is the flex between Nemesis and Reckless. We have seen Reckless pop off on it in summer. We have seen Nemesis pop off on it as well. So LGD was very much targeting Nemesis and Selfmade because they have been kind of the win conditions for Fnatic going into groups. And then Fnatic just targeted kind of the entire top lane of LGD. If we look at pick ban order, So we got Oriana first out of Fnatic. So that's giving Nemesis a pocket pick that he can perform on really, really
Well,
well. That is
I actually think the thinking behind that was they've taken the Syndra away. You now have a free lane against whatever you possibly could want to play, and it denies it from GA. It was pretty obvious that's what they were wanting to
well, they
pick.
took the Syndra and the Lucian. Number two for Nemesis is the Oriana anyway.
Well, yeah, but you take away the Syndra, you suddenly give this Oriana so much better of a lane because there's not something that can be as aggressive into it.
Yep.
It was LGD wanted to pick it, otherwise they wouldn't have banned the Syndra. So you just first pick it and take it away. Suddenly, the only other answer to it really is something like the Zoe, but it's an even lane at best, and the Zoe just has to roam to get herself a lead.
LGD's first pick was Senna, one of the number one AE carries at the moment. Everyone is going
Something,
crazy for this Senna. Obviously,
something Kramer has shown a lot of proficiency on.
Exactly. Even though fasting Senna has fallen out of the meta, now that you just use her as a normal AD carry, my issue with Senna personally is her attack speed rate. She's very similar to Jin. She needs that wind up time, and especially in team fights, you just don't get the same as you do with an Ashe or a Caitlyn or someone like that.
I'm inclined to disagree.
Of course you are, because
Because
you're
you
the
have
AD carry main. No, you're the professional AD carry main, should I say?
um because you've got an your Q counts as an auto attack reset.
Yes.
So with if you've got a lethality item, you've got your rapid fire cannon, you've got your mirror mana, you auto Q, suddenly you've half health them in an ability and an auto attack, which would normally take a normal AD carry 2 or 3 hits, unless it's a Caitlyn headshot crit or it's a Jin fourth shot or something like that. You get that much damage out. You get the damage out just as fast, if not quicker, than a traditional AD carry, despite your attack speed deficit, and you have the extra range, and you're passively stacking crit.
You are also a Senna fanboy.
Oh yeah, no, I love that.
You love
I'm going to come out
Senna.
and say this now. I do love playing Senna. I think she's one of the best designed champions to come out in recent years.
You are a Senna fangirl. A Senna fanboy. Then obviously, with them pinching Peanuts champion pool, they needed to pick someone for Peanut so that they could guarantee him someone he could play on. Obviously, the
Great.
two outstanding people I see right now is the Graves and the Lilia.
And the Lilia
The Lilia
wasn't
was
taken,
banned in the second rotation.
but Graves is just stronger at the moment.
Graves is stronger at the moment. Also, self-made champion pool going into jungle is huge. He can pretty much pick up any of the top tens at the moment, and he'll show on them. And then and then obviously we go back to
Great.
Fnatic. We get the Volibear for Bwipo. Do you think they pick that as a flex potentially to go back into jungle, or do you think Volley is just a
Absolutely
top
not.
planer now?
They pick that because it's something Bwipo is confident on, and they know Langje is a big Renekton fan.
That is 100% true as well, yes. And then we pick up the Leona for Hillisang. Do you think they picked up the Leona in response to the Senna, or do you think they just picked up for Hilly? Because there was no bans on for bot lane at all in the first ban phase.
I think they knew that going into lane, that if they could abuse Mark and Kramer to a point where that Senna fell behind or whatever Mark was on was just abused, they could get pushed back to a point where Fnatic could run away with the game. The Leona does that very well in the sense that Curse of the Black Mist coming out from Senna really doesn't change anything, nor does the Piercing Darkness or the Dawning Shadow, because as soon as the Leona's on top of you, you don't get the stealth from Curse of the Black Mist. The healing and damage output from Piercing Darkness in the early game really isn't the highest, and Dawning Shadow has such a long wind up that you probably die while trying to cast it. And
We're totally gonna have to rename this the amateur analyst desk, sponsored by no
um,
one. Because I'm just like I'm currently feeding off my inner shocks right now,
um,
asking you all these questions.
and what it allows Leona to do is not only can she abuse that bot lane, but if she can find a roam onto the Zoe is very immobile. She doesn't really have anything she can do. And same with the Graves. If he travels with Self-Made or he goes mid with Nemi, suddenly they just lock down whoever they're fighting and there is no escape. And the Solar Flare being such a good engage tool off of the Zenith Blade, or even before it, just to guarantee that Zenith Blade lands. I think, and with the performance that Hylissang has shown on the Leona since spring, you'd be silly not to pick it up here, especially if you leave it open for a player like Mark, who does like his engages, where you know ban phase is coming up. They either pick something here to counter it, or you can get rid of even more picks that keep that center safe.
An addition onto that as well is I think they also picked it because I think, especially coming into spring, Fnatic were very much picked on because of their lack of engage. That's been a big thing in groups as well as people, groups, teams having a lack of engage. And obviously, with the Orianna, with the Leona, that's two already big engage champions.
And with Whippo being a third with the ult.
Exactly, if Whippo can pull that ult off, which he did really well in this game, if I remember correctly. Like, Whippo, because I remember there was the Hilly went under tower to go after someone with the Zenith Blade. He then stopwatched, then Whippo's ult came up, shut down the tower, and then I think they got like a 3-man kill or something. So this game in particular made me, as a Fnatic fangirl, incredibly happy because it made me really consider, okay, they're coming into their stride now. And if they can keep this up, there is a chance that they can take out their quarters, which we're not going to discuss yet because I don't want to cry yet, because I'm very worried. But let's finish this pick and ban because this is the one that was one of the most interesting ones. I think we can both agree.
Yeah, I do want to just throw in there. I feel like the Zoe was a terrible, terrible pickup.
100% agree with you on that one. I don't think Zoe is as strong as people think she was.
No, she is, but not when you've drafted Graves Senna. She suddenly has no front line. I don't care what you draft, you don't really have a front line in this game. Yeah, you've got hard engage, but you have 2 champions already who want to team fight.
Yeah.
Zoe doesn't. Zoe wants to pick.
So, LGD decide to ban. I've got this on 2 times and they still take this long to choose who they're banning. The Lilia, obviously, they're taking off now Selfmade's pool, but they're picking on Selfmade because we all know Selfmade is a very big part of the Fnatic lineup at the moment compared to Spring. But to be honest, the meta has completely changed. You think Spring, it was not, there was nothing about the junglers. Now it's all about this jungle mid lane synergy. Oh, look at Mithy. Gotta love a bit of Mithy. To be honest, he's been such a good coach for Fnatic at the moment. TK coming off. Mark on TK. Have we seen it, if you remember, or...?
No. However, I do know that the Tom Kench center lane is a very strong one because that center just doesn't die.
Also, they needed a front line, as you just said. TK could be a front line. Not a very good one, but he could be a front line.
No, he's a better front line than the likes of Nautilus because he can just sit there and take hits because of the thick skin, his E. But he doesn't provide much engage, which is what this team currently is lacking.
And then they take out the Jhin, which we have seen Reckless on pretty much, I think, in nearly every game so far. We've seen Reckless on Jhin. Yes, he's not been...
It's not a bad answer to the Senna. It's a better answer to the Caitlyn, but it's not a bad answer to the Senna. But I think taking the Jhin away here rather than... Because Caitlyn's open. Caitlyn and Ashe are both open. I think... I'm actually quite surprised they didn't pick the Caitlyn here as Fnatic.
I think I know what they chose, and I think they chose it because it's more of a comfort pick for Reckless as well as...
No, I remember what they chose.
Yeah.
But I feel like not picking the Caitlyn was...
I think it's for Reckless's comfort. I think it was Reckless's comfort. I think he's more comfortable on what they chose compared to Caitlyn.
Possibly.
Because especially as that champion is a lot older than Caitlyn. And Reckless has been playing since literally the game launched. And then who do Fnatic pick as their final ban?
Another Thresh.
Thresh. So they were 100% targeting Mark.
Absolutely. You take away his comfort picks. Besides Longshay, he's the second weakest player on this roster. Longshay's already got his pit. Or Longshay, you're not really scared of. You know what he's going to default to. So you take away Mark's stuff. And I actually think that...
I think this is when they pick up the Renekton. Oh no, so they go Nautilus.
Yes.
So Nautilus Senna versus... We know what's going to happen because we know who this champion is.
Yeah. Nautilus isn't a bad pick here, but I definitely think that it's just comfort for Mark. Like, he doesn't get anything done on it. The Ashe comes through. Not bad, provides a 4th method of engage.
Literally, Fnatic's entire team is engage, engage, engage. Like,
but again, I do feel like the Caitlyn would have been better.
And then we get the Hacker Room for Self-Made,
So,
which we've
yeah, we
seen
have a
him
full
perform on.
we have a full engaged comp from Fnatic. You can't avoid fighting them.
Oh, see, that would have been interesting if they gave us the Gnar in this game. But no,
I think
obviously.
if they'd have taken the Gnar for Longshade, it would have gone a lot better top lane.
And then obviously they pick the Renekton, which we've
you
seen
default-
Longshade perform on.
You default to the Renekton because it's Longshade's comfort pick, but the problem I have with that is it's not a winning lane into the Volibear. You've just picked yourself weak side, but you don't have a strong side bot lane.
Yeah. I 100% agree with you on all of that. Obviously, I don't remember the game being that close either.
I mean, some of the fights did look a bit lost from Fnatic because they entered, but it was in no way a lost game.
28 minutes, 20 to 9 to Fnatic, with a 12k gold lead as they hit the Nexus.
It wasn't close.
Whippo didn't die.
Whippo really
didn't die. Like, Whippo didn't die. Everyone else only died twice. Reki went 3 times, but as the AD carry, you can potentially expect him to die a little bit more. Obviously, we look at Mark.
Of course.
Look at Mark and Peanut and Longshade. None of them could get online. Yeah,
that comp was just shut down from the first minute. I do believe there was a 2v2 bot lane level 2 that Fnatic actually ran away with.
That you just look at the creeps on AD carry. Reckless was almost 100 above the Senna. So that means Senna didn't potentially get a chance to stack. If we actually click on that, I don't know if it will tell us.
Nope. Maybe. I doubt it though.
No, it doesn't. But he was also a level 13 to a level 15. Like if we look at the levels 16 to 15, 15 to 13, 16 to 15, 15 to 13, 12 to 10. So Fnatic were just on top of everything. They had 9 towers as LGD only had 2. They only took 1 inhib and then they finished the games. Obviously there was one big fight at the end that finished everything off. But that is groups talked about. We're now going to talk about quarterfinals. I think your message to me speaks exactly what we were both thinking, which is EU are fucked. That was exactly your message to me when I sent you what the drafts were. I think EU have got a very, very hard time. I don't think it's 100% over for them. My picks are expecting at least one EU team to make semis, but I don't think there is a way that potentially that, unless there is a big, big upset, that either of the EU teams are going to make finals this year. Do you agree?
Bear with me, sorry. I'm just writing something down. I think we're going to have at least one EU team in the... Well, I would like to think we're going to have at least one EU team in the finals, but...
We could, in theory, have a Fnatic G2 final. It's not going to happen. Don't think it's going to happen. If I go into Medic's Discord, who said it this morning? Was it Cal? Somebody... Oh, no, it was Angelite. So Angelite literally put... since UOL Fly ruined my perfect groups, I'm going to believe in EU supremacy for now, and had Fnatic JD, then G2 versus Dan1, and had a Fnatic G2 final with G2 winning. That's just because of the history of Fnatic versus G2. We would love to have that, but I really don't think it's going to happen. As the biggest Fnatic fangirl, I can see realistically and be like, is there a chance that Fnatic are going to beat Top? Because it is, it was the way it was drawn was Fnatic versus Top, Suning versus JD, Gen G versus G2, and then Dan1 versus DRX.
Right.
They flipped the order for some reason of play. So we'll start at the top and we'll do Dan1 versus DRX.
That's the bottom.
No, they flipped it, look. If you look at my screen, They flipped it. They've not done it in the right order.
Oh, you took an order of play. Okay.
Yeah, order of play, not order of pick.
Right. Damn, I'll win that every day. I am gonna use my screen to go into detail about the players and just talk a bit about the teams that have made it.
Yeah.
So, just something to point out of the way this has been drawn. We have LPL plus Fnatic on one side and LCK plus G2 on another.
And we all know LPL versus Fnatic's history.
But if we start with Damwon versus DRX, I believe this was Korea first, Korea second seeds.
We can have a look exactly where people
Damwon,
placed.
I think, yeah, Damwon, I'm pretty sure was Korea first seed. Clicking on the team doesn't tell you.
Yes.
Clicking on the team doesn't tell you.
It should do.
Yeah, it must have been because Genji was third. So Damwon was Korea first seed. You've got Nuguri and Showmaker, who honestly have just been revered as the LCK's next big topside duo. They both have a lot of skill to their name, and both need to be watched out for, especially when coming face to face with a team like DRX who do know how to play against them. The rest of the team there isn't much. I mean, Canyon is supposedly a really good support or jungler even. Beryl's supposed to be a really good support, and then you've got they brought two AD carries with them in Nuclear and Ghost. I believe Nuclear is their main AD carry.
Is this Damwon or DRX?
Damwon.
Well, let's just see who played. Damwon, they had Ghost.
Oh, Ghost is their main carry. Okay. But yeah, looking at it as a whole, Showmaker and Nuguri are basically what makes up Damwon. Whereas with DRX, you have four names that really ring a bell when you hear them. Deft is a star-studded LCK AD carry. Went head to head with Uzi in past years. Chovy, been one of the best mid laners that LCK has to offer for years on end. Doran, again, a very good top laner who the LCK has treasured for years. And Keria, who I believe is relatively new to the scene. But has showcased time and time again that he's a support you can rely on. And then Piosik coming in this year and really showing what a jungler can do for the team. Now, I am almost certain Damwon are going to win this game, and I think it'll be a 3-1 win to Damwon.
That is exactly what I've predicted. So you also agree. Cool. I'm just writing down. I've got my little piece of paper that I've got our predictions on. Yeah, that I pretty much agree with exactly what you said. Damwon, besides dropping those couple of games in groups, well, how many did they only drop one game? Yes, they did. They dropped a game to whoever the last one was, which I think was JDG. And besides dropping that one game, they have been a pile driver of a force. They have not been able to be stopped. Let's say that. I was quite happy with this poll. I think it is going to be an interesting, especially coming into draft. I think it's going to be very interesting. But I am expectant and strongly expectant for a 3-1 to Damwon. 100% agree with you. Suning versus JDG.
Okay, if that's the next one we're doing.
Yeah, we'll leave EU to last because that's what they've done on play order.
So, Suning, LPL third seed.
Yep.
It really did showcase a very strong performance. Huan Feng and Sword Art. Sword Art being a star-studded support who actually was in contention for world champion multiple years in a row. And this year is paired up in bot lane with Huan Feng, who is a very strong AD carry. SFM really has burst onto the scene this year as like a jungler that you have to be scared of. He has had great performances on the Graves. He's had star-studded performances on the Lilia, and he knows when he needs to take a step forward and be the man the team relies on. Angel, again, relatively new to the international stage, I believe, but has definitely come out all guns blazing. Same with Bin, honestly. I think Suning as a whole really have just shown you they are a team that needs to be feared this year. Which is, if you ask me, really important. Because if you go in with people thinking you're a team to be feared, that's how you'll be respected. Whereas JDG, there are 3 names here that anybody who has watched International League of Legends for the past few years will recognize, and that is Lumao, Kanavi, and Loken. And they have always been in talks for best in their role. Lumao and Kanavi have been around for years, so has Loken, to be fair, and they're all very good, respectively, in their roles. And Yagao and Zoom have come in this year, showing us that they have what it takes to be world champions. And I think that this matchup is going to be a very, very interesting one. I do think it's going to be a 3-1 to JDG. Because, of course, they were LPL second seed, whereas Suning were third. But, yeah, I definitely do think that JDG are going to take that 3-1.
I've put it 3-2 to JDG. I think you are discounting Suning a little bit by saying that they were third and JDG was second, because Suning beat G2.
Yeah, but G2 have a history of losing to LPL teams.
So does Fnatic. I was very impressed with Suning's performance, especially against G2. And I am excited to see how they will go up against another Asian team. I think we will see a lot of interesting drafts, and I think JDG are going to take it, but I've put it 3-2. I think it's going to be a lot closer than we actually think. Oh, the one I really don't want to talk about. Top Esports versus Fnatic. When this was pulled, I wanted to die. Because the way they pulled it as well was really weird. Because G2 was pulled first, but G2 couldn't go against top for some weird reason, and so it had to be Fnatic, and it made me really sad.
Wait, why couldn't G2 go against top?
Because apparently, if you were in the top bracket, you couldn't go against someone else in the top bracket, and I'm like,
because Suning were pulled in the top bracket, they then couldn't go against Suning in the semis. Now I see what's going on here.
To me, I was just like, this is unfair. This should be G2 versus top, not Fnatic. But two names stand out when you look at the top lineup as names that you can recognize if you've watched International League of Legends before now, and I'll give you 2. I'll let you tell me who they are. Well, it depends. Are you an LPL fangirl, like for us? Because I would say 2 different names to probably what you're gonna say.
No, just International League of Legends.
Well, I would say 3, not 2. I would say Knight, 369, and Jackie Love.
I don't think Knight's been that big of an impact at past.
Frost has literally been fangirling about him for the last 2 years. Since she joined the LEC, all she's been talking about is Knight versus Caps, Knight versus Caps, Knight versus Caps. Which we're not getting yet, which makes me sad.
Karsa and Jackie Love were the 2 I had in mind. Time and time again. I mean, Jackie Love's ex-world champion. He proved to us that he was a strong AD carry that year. He proved to us, I think last year, that he was still in contention for AD carry. And when IG dropped him, everything looked dead. And then Top picked him up, and he has come in all guns blazing this year. And Karsa has always been a staple pick in whatever team he's on.
I think putting them together is what has made this team.
Yes.
Like, thing is, they've not got one lax player.
Carry.
Like, they've not got one carry. It's literally every single person in every
Steps
single
up.
position steps up to do the
3,
best that
6,
they can.
9 has been rolling nines every day at this tournament.
Like, he has been unstoppable, and I am interested to see him against Bwippo. I think if we get angry Bwippo and inting Bwippo, it's going to be over game one, and 369 is going to get in his head, and that's going to be it. But I am interested to see what he does.
And ironically, the worst player of this roster, all told, is probably Uganja.
Which
And
is,
even then, he's so consistent.
yeah, even though he's not the top of the group, like, he is still a very consistent jungler, and going up
Uganja's
against.
support.
Oh, I thought he was jungler. No, that's Kaza.
No, Caster's
That's
jungler.
my brain getting confused. Again, he's been consistent. He's been allowing Jackie Love to pop off. He's been allowing Jackie Love to get those triple kills, to get the back lines, to be the front line, to protect that AD carry. Hilly doesn't do that for Reckless. Hilly is a wandering support. Hilly likes to go and help Selfmade, to go and help Bwippo, to go and help Nemesis. He doesn't always stay with Reckless. As we've seen, the amount of time you and Jackie Love spend together is a lot more, which is what I think gives Jackie Love the chance to pop off.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I've got to talk about them. I've got to talk about the Fnatic roster.
My boys, let's talk about my boys. Let's talk about my boys. I'm gonna try and be quiet and non-biased, but
the one name that sticks out to me as a name that anybody will recognize from international tournaments is Reckless. For years on end, he has been one of these consistent AD carries who can step up when he needs to, but can also take a back foot and play a more supportive role. He's not been performing the best this year. I think he's definitely had a lot of slip-ups. He's definitely had some questionable choices, but his consistency is still there. And I think, especially paired with a player like Hillisang, who can unlock his potential,
but he's not in
is really good. But Hillisang also likes to roam, and Reckless has showcased that he's a very consistent AD carry, even when left on his own. He doesn't let himself get caught, which I think is a lot of what Jackie Love and Yuyanja rely on, is catching the AD carry on their own. So I think if Reckless can do what he's known for and just play the lane 1v2, allow Hilly to roam mid, give Nemesis a lead, maybe go with Selfmade topside and help Bwippo out, they do have a chance. Nemesis has been hit and miss all season. He really made a name for himself with his Twisted Fate, his on-hit Twisted Fate last year when it was strong, and has just showcased a dominant performance on that champion ever since. I think anybody who doesn't ban it against him is probably willing to just forfeit the game.
Also, yes, he's been very good at Twisted Fate, but his Lucian, especially coming into Worlds, has been, like, outstanding.
I honestly am still a bit shaky. I feel like he can only really play it if Selfmade is put on something like the Evelyn, where he doesn't have to take as much of a carry role. Because he knows that as Lucian, you don't scale. So you pick that Lucian, you need something else that can do your late game damage.
True.
Bwippo. One of the most inconsistent top laners EU has ever known.
Yep.
But when he pops off, and he showed that to us the other day against LGD.
And we get Bwippo happy dances.
And Selfmade was a rookie last year in the LEC. He's still not considered a veteran, but he's not considered a rookie anymore. But he's one of the young star players of this roster who really does showcase both sides of jungling. He can be the carry, but he can also take a back foot and let Reckless and Nemesis take the front wheel. And Felix, I haven't talked about the sub for any other team, but Felix, from what I've seen of him playing in UKLC, is a very strong mid laner. A very strong mid laner, especially on the likes of the Akali. He's something to be feared if they put him in, because I don't think any team's scrimmed against him yet. But ultimately, I think this is going to be a 3-2, but I have to give it to top.
You have got more faith in Fnatic than I have, and I'm the Fnatic fangirl. I've put it as a 3-0 to top.
I was thinking 3-0.
think they're going to get outdrafted game 1. Reki's going to lose faith. Hilly's going to in. Buko's going to get angry. Selfie and Nemi are not going to be able to carry it, and it's going to be a 3-0. We've seen time and time again Fnatic get stage fright when it comes to these big best of fives. Yes, they can perform, but we've seen it time and time again. Fnatic have not had the best year in general when it comes to both the LEC Spring and Summer splits. Obviously, we didn't have MSI, so we couldn't see them compete against internationals. And this year in general has been a very strange year for all of esports due to COVID. G2 haven't really dropped the ball, which is why I have more faith in them right now, as much as I hate them. But I seriously think it's either going to be a 3-2, like you've said, or it's going to be a 3-0. I do not have the unbending faith in Fnatic anymore. I am more realist when it comes to them, and I understand that they're not the best team in the world. They're not the champions that we had season 1. They're not the semis that we had 2017. And I think we're just going to have to accept that. I think there is going to be a shuffle with Fnatic going into next year. We've discussed this previously on different other streams and personally and privately as well. But what we've discussed previously compared to how they've performed at Worlds has completely changed. If we talk about Summer Split, when they literally did a 9-9, coin flipped their whole season, quoting Frostgearin, compared to this, compared to finishing groups 4 and 2. The only 2 games they lost were against Genji, who were the number 1, which we expected.
Nope. They lost 1 game to LGD, 1 game to a Genji.
Oh. Wow. LGD can suck it, I don't care. But yeah, that is my thoughts on Fnatic is, as much as I am excited to see how they go, I am very, very nervous about this game.
I think you're actually discrediting Fnatic a lot here. I mean, yeah, their regular season looked very shaky, and then you saw the Fnatic playoffs buff.
Yep, week 2 playoffs buff.
They come into Worlds, and yeah, they look shaky week 1, but they're in a group with LGD and Genji. Nobody's expecting them to surpass them. Then you come into week 2, and they take down everybody but Genji. They'd taken down Genji the week before. They are showing competitiveness. And Fnatic are known for their best of 5s. Fnatic get best of 5s buffs. They perform extremely well. And the only reason I have this as a 3-2 to top is because I think the legacy behind Karsa and Jackie Love is going to scare Selfmade and Reckless.
I think, has Reki been in this longer than Jackie Love?
I don't know, but Jackie Love was the AD carry that took him down 3 games in a row in 2018.
When did Jackie Love start? When did he first signed June 2016. So, Reckless has been a professional longer than Jackie Love. Also, Jackie Love is only 19.
Yeah. Jackie Love's really young.
Reckless is 24? Yeah, 24. He just turned 24 as well. I'm so smart. Yeah, Reckless started in 2012. Reki has literally been playing. He was officially signed in 2012, but we all knew that he was basically signed with Fnatic from season 1. Like he was their too young to play player in season 1. And I agree with you. I think I am discrediting them a little bit, but that's because I have put too much faith and love into this team before and been disappointed. Them against IG in the final. They should have had that. And they got stomped 3-0. And the amount of times that they've made worlds and not gone any further than groups or not gone any further than quarters. Yes, this is potentially one of the strongest Fnatic's teams, like lineups we've seen since Caps. But I don't think that they have a chance against a team with the strongest caliber as Top Esports. Top Esports has been the number 1 talked about team since Worlds announcements happened. And I love my boys. They are like, I'm literally getting a League tattoo with Fnatic secretly put in there somewhere. Like, I'm literally gonna have them on my body for the rest of my life. But I don't see them going past quarters, which makes me sad. Like, literally, my response was when they got drawn against Top Esports during the draw plus show was I almost was crying because they have worked so hard this year to get where they are, and now they're literally going up against the hardest team. And I feel sorry for them, and I'm even if they do lose 3-0, I won't be disappointed this time. I've become a realist over the last couple of years, and yes, I think that Fnatic, in my heart of hearts, are the best team in the world, and I want to see them be a world champion one day with Reckless on the team. Reckless has been playing for 8 years. He's getting on. He's one of the oldest people in League, I think, at the moment that's still a player. How many more years does he have in him?
2 at best.
Exactly. His contract runs out at the end of this Worlds. Will he decide to resign? Will he branch out and go somewhere else? Like we were discussing who was getting picked up by China?
Upset.
Upset might be getting picked up by China. I don't think he's got much longer in him either.
I don't think Upset ever had very. I don't like Upset as a player, and I've voiced my opinions about Upset publicly on multiple occasions. I think I agree you're making a huge mistake.
Seeing Soaz retire last year.
Soaz hasn't retired. He's taking a year's break.
He's retired. Even if a year's break, I'm sorry, you don't get that in a professional sport.
I think he should have retired, but he's not.
He probably is going to officially retire. I don't see many people picking him up after a year out.
I don't. After his last 3 years performing with Fnatic, Misfits, and
whoever he went to in NA,
Immortals, because he was subbed out all 3 years.
So I don't see him. Even in quotation marks, Soaz has retired. Mithy has retired. Like Reckless is one. Yellow Star is retired. Reckless is one of the only old standing knights of Fnatic that is still there and still can perform. But can we get the same level that we got in 2014, 2015 now? No.
So it's him and Febby left, and Febby's on his way out.
The game has completely changed in the last 5 years. Completely changed. The meta has changed God knows how many times.
I think if we're being realistic here, if Febby isn't re-signed this year by Misfits, he won't be signed and he will retire.
I wouldn't be surprised either. I wouldn't be surprised if Febby retires and then literally one of the old guards of Fnatic that we're left with is Reckless. And I agree with you. I don't think he's going to have many years left as a pro player. I think he's going to follow Mithy's suit and potentially become a coach or something of that nature. But it will be sad to see him go. I think
can't discount Amazing either. I mean, he's retired as a player as well.
Yeah, he's officially a coach now.
Which I think was the worst decision he ever made.
We're not talking about that. But yeah, I agree with you that I potentially am discounting them a little bit, but that's because I've seen the progression of Fnatic over the last 5 years. I've seen the way that they've performed. I've seen the way that they have. Reckless used to not show his emotions. Then we got to 2018.
And he was sat there crying on stage.
Same with Faker. We didn't see Faker's emotions till 2018. Then Faker was crying on stage.
2017.
He cried in 2018 as well.
I think that was when they were knocked out in.
And now they didn't even make it to Worlds. Yeah. The old guard.
And he's looking at being replaced.
The old guard has to change. We're 10 years into this. This is the 10th World Championship for League of Legends. For Reckless to still be able to perform from the old guard is incredible. He's probably one of the only one out of the entire old guard that can still perform. But again, we have to put that there is only there's a time limit on how long you can be a top world-class professional.
I wouldn't even put him as a top world-class player at the moment.
I would.
Not with how inconsistent he's looked this year.
Even with him being inconsistent, I would still say he's a top world-class professional.
But ultimately, I do think that Reckless is going to be scared of JackeyLove, and ultimately that's what's going to lose them the best of 5. I do think it'll be a 3-2, though. I think we're discounting Fnatic too much.
I don't think he's going to be scared of JackeyLove. This year, in particular, he has worked on his determination and he has worked on his endurance and his ability to bounce back. look at going from 9-9, being dragged across the finish line into play-ins, to summer playoffs, and them coming second. Like, they took out Rogue 3-0 in the first game of the playoffs.
And did the same with G2.
I think that they have ebbs and lows. They're not, as a team, they are not consistent. It's not just the players, it's as a team they are not consistent. And they need that to develop that consistency. They need to develop their play style that works for them, which they've been struggling with all year. But we're going to stop talking about Fnatic. I knew this was going to happen because they are my boys. I knew we were going to talk about them too much. And we are going to get onto the, in my opinion, most interesting game of Quarters.
It's the least decided.
Which is G2 versus Gen G.
Right, now when I think of Gen G, I think of Samsung Galaxy.
Well, they literally are. It's literally the same team.
Generation Gaming are a rebranded KSV, which was a rebranded Samsung Galaxy. But the only players that remain, because I believe Kuve, I think, is retiring. On. I'll do my research quickly.
Let's have a look.
Kuve,
so, Gen G is...
I know who they are. I'm talking, like, past. No, Kuve was picked up by Hanwha Life. Esports. In the LCK. He was with Gen G up until November of last year, and then Hanwha Life picked him up. Ambition has retired. Crown is currently the mid laner for OZ Gaming in Korea. I think it's another LCK team. But he was with Gen G up until November of 2018. Then he went to NA. And didn't find success. Ruler is still with Gen G, and Core JJ has gone to NA. Ruler is the only person of that original roster that World Championship roster that did come through and win in 2018 still with the team, and he is still the best player that team has to offer. He has proved that at this World Championship time and time again. And the champions he's known for, the Ezreal, still performs extremely well on it. The Xayah is not in the meta, the Varus isn't in the meta, but he's come in swinging on the Senna. He's come in swinging on the Ashe, the Callista. This man cannot be suppressed. And alongside the likes of Clid, someone who has been revered as one of the best junglers Korea has ever produced. And BDD, who is a monster mid lane, especially on the likes of the Azir and the Orianna.
One question.
Go on.
Life's Rakan choice.
Let's not go there.
Oh, we're talking about it. We are going to talk about it because it was the funniest thing I have ever seen, and I'm so glad that Medic got to cast it as a Rakan player. What do you think was his mistake? Do you think he chose them by accident? Do you think it was on purpose? Do you think, like, how do you go into a lane without heal?
It was entirely intentional because he had Spellbook. But it was a terrible choice because the Guardian works 10 times better, and without a flash as Rakan, you really are just useless.
For those who don't know, it was Gen G versus Fnatic, wasn't it?
Yep.
And Life was playing Rakan, and for his summoner spells, he chose Teleport Ignite? Or Ignite Exhaust?
Ignite. Exhaust Ignite.
Exhaust Ignite. And I think Ruler took...
Flash TP was playing Ezreal.
Exactly. No heal on your bot lane. Full stop.
Which is... It's relatively standard in the current meta.
That's
not the worrying part.
It was just funny. It was honestly one of the best games I've ever watched. A lot of people say that is what lost them the game. I don't agree on that one.
I think no, because think of it this way: if Life had that flash, he wouldn't have been abused the early game, and suddenly that game's a whole different ball game.
Again, it's a what if scenario. We'll never know unless it is what happens against G2. Going back to your point about Ruler, Ruler versus Perks.
Ruler wins it. I don't have a doubt in that.
Do we think Perks should not be an AE carry?
I think he's definitely showcased that he has the ability to be an AD carry, but I do not think he can stand up to the world class of the likes of Ruler and Jackie Love.
Going into obviously going to G2, there has been a big discussion about Yankos's ability this year. Like obviously he was spring MVP, and then it just dropped off. Like yes, he did perform in summer, but nowhere near as good as he did in spring. And then coming into groups, so many people have been commenting on Yankos's ability to be that playmaking jungler, which he just hasn't done.
Rightfully so. I mean, to me, Yankos is this player that's known for his flashy plays with the Lee Sin, the Rek'Sai,
Sejuani.
and well, yeah, the Sejuani. None of those can be played at the moment, not realistically. And so he's stuck on the Graves, the Lilia, the Hecarim, the Nidalee. I'm not impressed.
I don't think
I
anyone
think
is.
I think that as stupid as it sounds, the nail was hit. They hit the nail on the head when they said that it was Caps. Just completely, it is the Cap show.
It's the
It's
Cap
sad.
show, but Wonder and Mickey have been showing up.
I still think. I don't think Wonder is one of
You
the
don't
best
like
players
Wonder.
I don't. Well, I don't like Wonder or
You don't
Yankos,
like
but
Wonder.
I don't like Wonder or Yankos, but that's for personal reasons. I think Wonder isn't one of the best players in EU. I think he's definitely outclassed, and I think he's being carried by the team. I think a player like Alfaro would fit this roster much better and would actually make the team a lot more likable. um, but I think ultimately it is Caps showing up. It is Mickey allowing Perks and Caps to get leads, but I don't think Caps can stand up, or Perks can stand up to the world class of the likes of Ruler and Jackie Love.
What is your prediction for this one?
It's a 3-2 to Genji. I think G2 will put up a fight, but I do believe it's a 3-2 to Genji.
I have put 3-2 to G2 just because they are my hope right now. I think with the draw that Fnatic got, G2 are kind of pulling on my hope. Obviously, we've seen Fnatic be able to beat Gen G. Yes, it was during that unfortunate Rakan game, but we also saw some of the other teams beat Gen G. Gen G. Oh no, they only lost one game and it was to Fnatic. Never mind. Again, Fnatic obviously did be able to beat them, and Fnatic and G2's playstyles sometimes can be similar. Obviously, G2 are a lot more offensive a lot of the time. Coming into Worlds, Fnatic have become very offensive, trying to get those picks in darkness, especially playing with their junglers. But because we've had an issue with Jankos coming into Worlds, I am worried for them, but I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and hope that they can do this. So that takes us to what playoffs are going to be. Obviously, we start on Thursday with Damwon vs DRX, then Friday Suning vs JD, Top vs Fnatic, Genji vs G2 on Sunday, and then we go into semis the week after. Obviously, they're getting bigger gaps now in between rounds. Do you think that is going to be a benefit for some of the teams?
Absolutely. It allows more preparation, it allows more scrims, it allows the teams to become more comfortable knowing, or at least having an idea of what um
Other teams are playing.
well no, just with what they're coming up against as a whole.
Obviously, we are now also going into best of fives. Do you think that is going to impact any of our LPL and LCK brethrens?
Yes. I do think that's why I think Fnatic do have a chance, and I think G2 do have a chance. Because there are two teams known for their strength in best of fives, but I'm not convinced they can win out or over Top or Genji. I don't think we're going to have any EU team in the semi-finals this year. I think that internationally they are looking quite weak this year. But again, we didn't have MSI, so we couldn't be sure up until now. And honestly, groups isn't anything to go off of. It's these best of fives that are going to show us truly which regions are able to stand up to the best.
It would be very disappointing to not have either of the EU teams make it through to semis, with obviously G2's performance at MSI last year and Fnatic and G2's continuous performance within the LEC. Obviously, going back to Summer Split, we had an issue with G2 and LEC both dropping down to 4th and 5th at one point, which was like the first time it's happened in 7 years or something ridiculous. And obviously, they then managed to pull it back at the end and take out Mad and Rogue. Speaking of Mad and Rogue, we have not discussed Rogue's performance in groups yet. Obviously, we are both quite big Rogue fans. You, because of Hans Armour and his lineage with Misfits. Me, because Finn is quite attractive, which I'm more than happy to admit on stream. What do you think needs to change in Rogue's lineup and/or playstyle?
Rogue need to find a top laner who can play weak side.
Or a top laner that can play at all? Like, I love Finn, but he has let himself down. He has been called out by every caster, every analyst, for being Rogue's weak link. Even on Malphite, he can't win games.
Yeah, I honestly think that Finn is the weakest point of that roster, as much as I hate to admit it, because he is a good player. If you can get yourself a player like Alfari in that top side who can play weak side, you suddenly have a much stronger lane, especially with Hans Sommer being an AD carry who you have to play around.
There is a gentleman called Duffers in my chat who I think you will 100% agree with, who has said LEC's tops in general for Worlds have been shocking so far. Obviously, we have just discussed how much you have a distaste for Wonder, and how Bwipo has a tend to int. Same with Hillisang. Do you agree that all of the LEC tops are bad, or just the three that we have discussed today?
I think that, yeah, most of the LEC top laners in general have been shockingly, especially at Worlds, they've been shockingly just underwhelming, especially with how much weight the role carries in the current meta. See, I don't even think Wonder's S tier. I think Wonder has his good games, don't get me wrong, but I still think that players like Alfari do just outclass him, and if G2 had Alfari instead of Wonder, I think they'd be a much better team for it.
I would say I agree with you to an extent. I do have a soft spot for Wonder. I think he's pretty good. Yeah, agree with you. He definitely did carry them at MSI, but also so did Caps. Caps has been the #1 star in G2, both as an AD carry and as a mid laner.
I have never been so impressed by Wonder that I said he solo carried that game. He either always has somebody else carrying with him or is doing shockingly bad. I just don't think he's one of the best top laners the EU has to offer right now. Bwipo is in a similar boat. I think he is coin flip. He's the coin flip one of the two. Finn is the obvious weak link for that, and I think Arome is another weak link. He didn't even make groups, but I think Arome is another weak link in terms of the 4 top laners that we sent to Worlds this year.
Let us look at the full list of top laners. Summer 2020. Most kills in a single game. Caps, Hansama, Abadage, Kazi. Best fun. Caps, Reckless, Patrick, Hansama, Kobe. Champions. This is not what I want. I want to go on Wikipedia. 2020 LEC season. Teams. So, Excel's top laner is
Cries. There isn't much to say about Cries, if I'm being honest.
I think Excel are not given enough love, in my opinion, but that's also because I have started following Kadrill on Twitch, and he's actually quite a good streamer. Schalke! Obviously, we have Odo. Do we think it is time for Odo to retire?
I don't want to say yes, because he's in a very similar boat to Vizicachi. He holds a big legacy for EU.
But do we think it potentially is time for him to retire?
I give him another year, and then maybe it's time to retire.
Odo is so overrated. Personally, same for Vizicachi, says Duffers.
I'm inclined to disagree, but at the same time, I only think Odo's got a year left. I think Vizicachi chose a good time to retire. I think a year left at best.
Let's talk about your team. Let's talk about Dan Dan.
It wouldn't surprise me to see Misfits drop him this year. He is the weak link. He can't play weak side. He's a
I,
carry. He's a carry top laner. He
I
can't
think
play weak side,
that's most of the top laners in LEC's issue is we
which is a
can't
problem.
play weak
They're
side.
carry players. They can't play weak side.
Vitality. We have Cabo.
Cabo is one of those top laners who can play weak side, but you can also rely on him to step up when you need to.
Cabo has been with Vitality since 2015.
He is Vitality's Reckless, basically.
He is Vitality. Well, I think they're potentially the only two that have stayed with the same team this long. Everyone else has swapped around and moved, and like, yes, Febby is still playing, but he's been to NA and then he came back because he went NA, not good.
Yeah, I think Cabo isn't one of the best, but he can do it all. Genax, yeah, he is the generic top laner of top laners.
Yeah.
Genax is something I'm gonna hold my tongue on. It's someone I'm gonna hold my tongue on. I've not seen enough of him top lane to pass judgment.
And we have already talked about Alfari and how
I think
we would.
Alfari is by far the best top laner the LEC has to offer right now. He was just stuck on a team that really had just lost its cohesion.
How much we would love to move Alfari over to G2 or Fnatic. Either of the two top teams.
I wouldn't say no to him on either. I also think that if he was on a team, I think if he was on any of the teams this season that wasn't Origin, they would have placed higher than they did.
Do you want to do your semi-final predictions, or do you want to hold off and do them next week?
Well, let me put it this way. I have written down who I think's going to finals. I haven't done game predictions, but I have written down who I think's going to finals.
So have I. But do you want to hold that and do that next week when we do our quarters review?
No, because if we might as well do it now, because then we can be held to it for.
Okay. Well, I think we both are. I have my hopeful predictions and then I have my realistic predictions. My realistic predictions. So, Dan 1, DRX, Suning, JD, Top Esports Fnatic, Genji, G2. So, if I actually go into standings, this will show us who goes into who. So we have Top Esports versus Fnatic and Suning versus JD. I have it as Top versus JD.
So do I.
I then have Genji versus G2, Dan 1 versus DRX. I have it G2 versus Dan 1.
I have Genji versus Dan 1.
You think Genji is going to beat G2? I'm using Genji as my I'm using G2 as my last EU hope line. But then for my finals, I do say it's Top versus Dan 1, which is what everyone has been saying since Group 1. Since day 1.
Yep, I actually think Top versus Genji.
So you think Genji will beat Dan 1?
I do.
Why?
I understand that Nuguri and Showmaker have been revered as this top mid duo that really are they're just unstoppable. But I mean, you look at the Shy and Rookie, who were also a duo like that, and they shit out. And Dan1 have been doing the same for years. I just think Genji, when on the day, will perform better.
So I'm saying all the games, semis and finals are going to be at least a 3-2. Do you agree with me on that? I don't think we have one strikeout going to be a 3-0 game. But to be honest, we all thought about that Fnatic versus IG. We all thought Fnatic IG was at least going to be a 3-1, 3-2, and obviously it was a 3-0 stomp. Fnatic G2 has also been stomped in the last year in the finals. Do we think that is because it was an EU team, or do we think that is just how the finals work now? I really would like a five game final.
I think we're going to have a 5-game final, and I'm unsure as to who's going to take it. Because we've got, honestly, what I look at when I look at Top versus Genji, I look at the battle of the 80 carries. Jackie Love and Ruler. They hold such a legacy to them that it really is just going to depend on who performs better on the day. And I would like to think that's Genji, but at the same time, I couldn't say. I wouldn't want to make a prediction because I think it would just discredit the enemy or the other team too much. I don't want to make a prediction, but I do think that it'll be top Gen G and it'll be a 3-2. I just don't know who.
I obviously have got top down one. I have made a full prediction just because I have kind of relinquished my hope for EU winning this year. We've had a rough year in general. Obviously, it is in China. They've had to go through quarantines and all this, and I think it's definitely put a downer on Worlds as well as put a different perspective on Worlds this year. But I have it top 3-2. I do think top are gonna win.
Wouldn't surprise
That's
me.
just what they've got so much hype at the moment. Obviously, it would be nice to have another LPL team. I am going on the knowledge and belief from Frosk. Frosk has very much given me a lot of information. If you watch her stream about LPL, she used to be an LPL caster, so she knows a lot about that region. And I think a lot of people have looked down on it over the last 5 years. It's all been LCK, 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 and now LCK have finally dropped that ball, and LPL have been there to pick it up. EU are getting there, but this year has been so rough for them. One thing we haven't discussed: NA not making it to quarters.
Not surprised.
Neither am I. To be honest, I will 100% be honest. I'm not surprised either.
FlyQuest were the final bastion for me. Coming into groups, I knew FlyQuest would be that final bastion. I wasn't expecting TSM to perform. I wasn't expecting Team Liquid to perform. But they got pulled into a shit group.
I was expecting Team Liquid to do more because of Broxah.
I was expecting
Broxah is my babe.
to do well. I was expecting FlyQuest to do well because they've got PoE and Ignar, who are honestly two really good players who should go back to their main regions. But they got pulled into a group with Top and DRX, and it was inevitable they weren't going to make it out of groups, regardless of how hopeful I was.
And then, obviously, we have to say goodbye and a sad farewell to UOL. They had such an amazing play-ins to then get 6-0'd, to get 06. Do you think it was lack of skill or lack of experience, or do you think it was just they were put in a really strong group being put in with Top and DRX?
They were put in a strong group, absolutely, but from what I've seen of them play, I wasn't impressed.
Do you think they changed their mind coming into groups, coming from play-ins? Because play-ins, they played out of their mind.
I think that put them up against other wildcard regions, they'll do well. Yeah.
Vietnam and the other regions not being allowed to.
I definitely think put them up against the major regions of the world, they can't perform. Put them up against the wildcard regions, I'm not they'll perform, but ultimately that's not what counts.
Don't think they were overrated, but obviously both me and Drew are EU fans. We support the LEC. We both have our teams, and UOL are ex-EU. They used to be some of the strongest EU teams.
I mean, they brought up players like Hilly, like PoE, like Wonder.
My boy, one of my boys. But I agree with you that I think that potentially UOL only got through because of the lack of the Vietnam teams. Obviously, I've mentioned this before, and I need to stop using the word obviously. We have had a weird year with COVID and quarantines and restrictions. We lost out having Vietnam this year. Obviously, it would have been nice if potentially some regions could have brought another team rather than what happened, obviously, with the weird way they did play-ins. But I am, so far, very happy with the way Worlds has played out.
And they would have been happy with that. They would have seen Cloud9.
Yeah, that's true.
I think Cloud9 really are the only hope for NA at all. They're the only team that have made it out of groups for years now, if I'm not mistaken.
One thing I don't think we fully touched on in the last stream was Mad Lion's performance.
It was disgraceful. It was embarrassing.
Do we think that is due to rockiness? Do we think that is
absolutely.
due to the meta changing as well? Obviously, we went from 10-18 in what was the LEC play-ins to 10-19 for Worlds. And obviously, we did have quite a bit of a flip in the meta. Mad Lions were known as the ones who could come up with it. They were the creative ones. They were the people that introduced us to Wukong Bot, and I'm disappointed in them. Definitely, I think Kaiser and Kazi definitely need to step up. Do we think that some of their players are going to get picked up by other teams?
Uh, no. No, I think they stick with this roster and they advance they work on it. Um,
Do we think they replace Shadow?
no.
Even after his real lackluster performance?
Yeah, I think you just work together as a team. It was a group of rookies going to Worlds. The fact they made it to Worlds was already an achievement in and of itself.
Well, a group of rookies
But
minus a Rome.
I'm a humanoid.
And a Rome. Take a Rome and humanoid off, and the rest of them are rookies.
But yeah, I definitely think that you can't discount the fact that they made Worlds, but I do think that without a jump on the meta, they fell short. That's what they rely on, is having the jump on everybody else, and it didn't go their way.
Do you
And
think
that's down to rookie inexperience.
do you think it was just at Worlds, or do you think obviously the
No.
way that they ended LEC play-ins?
I actually think that halfway through the summer split, they started to drop off, but they already had that scare factor over the other teams. And I'm going to be honest, some of the teams in the LEC really did perform disgracefully, Misfits included.
I would put Fnatic in that as well. I think coming, especially during normal summer split, Fnatic struggled dramatically, and then they found themselves in the playoffs, and we used to playoff buff with Fnatic as well, so we were quite proud of that. Obviously, them taking down Rogue and G2, but unfortunately losing to G2 in the finals to come second. I agree with you, Duffers. You can't just take a team that plays their own style.
No, absolutely not.
Even with FlyQuest, FlyQuest struggled. They struggled so hard. Going back to
But they
playing
did well.
Going back to playing groups, do we think PSG would not have made it if they had their original team?
I think if they had played with their full team from play-ins, they would have gone 5-0 4-1. Maybe.
Even with the
Again,
way they performed in groups?
I don't think you can take you can't take the wild cards performance in groups as gospel, especially given that they're up against the major region teams, and they weren't exactly in a really easy group either.
No, they did have a damn. But to be honest, no group this year was easy. There was not one group out of there that was like, that team is definitely going to make it through because that group is easy. Both Suning and G2 in Group A, and Team Liquid in the end. If Team Liquid had brought their A game from week one, they might have done a lot better. Obviously, B, we had Damwon and JD. PSG and Rogue basically didn't have a chance unless they literally played their best game, which Rogue unfortunately suffered the rookie debuff. Gen G, Fnatic, and LGD. LGD, if they brought their game that they did in play-ins, they could have potentially beaten Fnatic and made it through. Top, DRX, FlyQuest, and it's these bottom four teams. Every team that came forth in groups was the only one that really didn't have a chance. Everyone else still could have made it. It was a very, very tight groups this year, and there wasn't that one, yes, this is the easy group, they're going to make it out. This year has been a lot tighter than other teams. Would we have preferred to see Para Supermassive
No.
over UOL?
No.
Would we prefer?
I think the teams that did make it through to groups did deserve it. I just don't think that you can expect them to perform amazing, especially with the teams that were at Worlds this year.
So it was a 3-2 Para to Mad in round one of the knockouts for play-ins. If Mad beat them, do you think they would have beat UOL?
Absolutely not. I don't think Mad could have done it. And even if they did, I don't think they would have. They would have just done the exact same as UOL did in their group. I don't think they could have beaten any of the teams in the group.
So, I think we've almost talked for 2 hours. I think we have discussed everything that we really have got, like, time and knowledge to. Going into, obviously, next year's season, is there any wildcard regions or smaller regions that you are more interested in watching?
Not that can go to Worlds.
Not that can go to Worlds, so CB LOL, TCL, none of them?
No, I honestly don't. I wasn't impressed this year by the wildcard regions. I'm gonna be honest with you.
So we are 100% saying potentially next year is going to be another LPL, LCK, LCS, LEC,
LEC.
LEC.
Yeah.
My brain is still on EU LCS because I've been
Yeah, no,
watching
I
that long.
am pretty happy to say that next year is going to be a very similar story to this year, unless when Seraphine does come out, she makes all that difference. But
Well, before Worlds next year, we should potentially get 3 to 4 new champions.
we will have about 6 or 7 new champions, if you ask me. I mean,
Well, this year has been a lot slower because of COVID, and obviously we don't know if people are going back to the offices or what's going to change next year, so we can't comment on exactly what we're getting. They aim 5 champs, 1 per role, is what Duff has just said.
I believe their end goal by the end of the year is 6, and they will bring out 2 for mid lane. 1 to fit the assassin playstyle, 1 to fit the mage playstyle.
And obviously, we've already been guaranteed we're definitely getting 3 new champions next year in some of the articles that they've been releasing. They've already announced there is a big pull on skins over the next couple of years. They've obviously currently reworked Spirit Guardian Udyr and Mad Scientist Ziggs, so they're actually canon. They're really hard working on the lore as well as the game. Drew, you know that I am a big lore person. I know quite a lot about the League lore. And that's just like that's another reason why I have Drew here, for anyone that is watching. Drew is a aspiring coach. He has done trials and he deserves a role. Another reason why I've pulled him onto here is to kind of give him a bit of an advertisement. You are looking for an amateur coach in any position, any team, please talk to my friend Drew. All his information is going to be in the description of the video and the VOD for this. You need to check him out, guys. He is an amazing coach, and he just needs to be given that chance to hopefully get into the pro scene. So I have to say thank you to Drew, unless you have anything else to say.
The only thing I did want to touch on was not only everything they've already been working on, but they have already promised us a new ultimate skin for an AD carry come the end of the year. Or a popular marksman, sorry, my bad. And
they have said that one of Seraphine's skins is an ultimate.
Yeah, and she's getting KDA skin.
Well, she's getting 3. She's getting a KDA skin, an indie skin, and then there's a Rising Star skin, and then there's her normal skin. My interesting thing with her is she looks like a female Taric.
Yeah, but it's great.
Are we gonna get
a version of Zoe, if you ask me?
Are we gonna get another Targonian character? Well, Zoe is Targonian. She's an aspect.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. Again, one last. Do you have anything else to say going into obviously this week's quarterfinals?
I think ultimately it's going to be very, very close, and you can't count any team out fully.
And I 100% agree with you. And I think that is going to be it for the stream today, guys. Thank you, Duffers, and anyone else that has tuned in. This will be getting uploaded onto my YouTube channel so people can hear our opinions wide, even though I've got no idea what I'm talking about half the time. I'm just a fangirl who likes League. And Drew, do you want to give yourself a shout out? What is your Twitch channel?
Twitch. Remind me. Hang on, I've got it open up. Siren_lol. It's because I used it's one way around for Twitter, the other for.
Well, you can literally see his Twitch is my recent subscribers. There is true.
Not on the screen.
It is. It's on my screen. When it pops up, I have said put stream ending, but we also know that there is a delay. And then what is your Twitter?
Twitter is. I'm gonna have to check this just to be certain. It is lol_siren. All the information you should need to contact me will be on there. If on one of the tweets that has my email, I will be putting out another tweet in the next few days. Not anything DM wise should come through. I have my DMs open. I am looking for either a full-time position as a coach for a team, or I can do one-to-one team coaching freelance, but the rates would vary depending.
There we go. Let Drew give himself a little shout out. We will be back next week to discuss quarterfinals. It's going to be an interesting one. I don't think we're going to have one day that is going to be a 3-0, even though I have predicted Top Fnatic 3-0, but I don't think it is going to be a 3-0. I'm glad that Top Fnatic are not the first one, and they are the third one, so I get to have 2 days of not really paying attention before I have to pay attention, and have a heart attack. But it is going to be an interesting week, I do think so. Drew, any last words before I end the stream?
Other than don't discount any team, I think I'm good.
Go EU. Hopefully, but it's going to be hard. Again, thank you anyone for watching, and we will see you all next week. Bye, guys.
Bye bye.